I was born with a terrible sense of direction. Not only do I get lost easily, but I can't tell north from south. Sasha refused to believe it. She claimed she would cure my bad habit. She even dragged Julian, my foster brother, and Ethan, my childhood neighbor, into her special training. Once, on a trip, they got off the train early and left me alone at the subway station. Another time at the mall, they slipped out of a different exit without saying a word. Left me wandering like a headless chicken, desperately searching for them. They called it helping me find my way. Today, during dinner, I went to the restroom. When I came back, all three of them were gone. Even the table had been completely cleared. I wanted to call them, but when I reached into my pocket, I remembered I had handed my phone to Sasha earlier. I went to the front desk. Hostess handed me a note Asha had left. It had only 2 sentences. "We've walked this path with you twice. I know you've memorized it by now. Go, Chloe. The 3 of us are waiting for you at home." Suddenly, I found this training incredibly boring. Honestly, what's so bad about having a pure sense of direction? As long as I have Google Maps, I can find my way without anyone else. It was already evening when I got home. The 3 of them were sitting in the living room eating ice cream and watching a movie. Sasha looked up and saw me walk in. She smirked victoriously at the other 2. "I told you Chloe would make it home before 7. You guys lost. You have to let me plan our entire trip next month. Besides, since your term papers are basically done, it's fine if we head back to campus a few days late." Julian unclicked his tongue. "Chloe, did you team up with Sasha to play us? Last time at the mall, it took you 4 hours to get back. This time, it didn't even take you 2. Julian was my foster brother. My dad took him in when we were kids. His parents had a nasty divorce when he was in 2nd grade, and neither of them wanted him. Growing up, my biggest wish was for my parents to give me an older brother. So after making sure his mother really had abandoned him, I begged my parents to let him stay. At first, my dad didn't agree. He tried to reason with me. "Chloe, he's a human being, not a stray puppy. We can't just take him in." Julian swore, right in front of them, that he would be the best brother to me. Seeing that the poor kid didn't even have a warm meal to eat, my dad finally relented and took him in. And now he had become Sasha's brother.
Exactly.
"Be honest, Chloe. Did Sasha leave you hints?" The speaker was Ethan, my next minor store neighbor. We grew up together. When we were kids, our parents used to joke that we were destined to marry each other. Even took it to heart. Knowing I had no sense of direction, he would wait for me every day after school to walk home together. Before Sasha showed up, from 1st grade to junior year of high school, we walked hand, minus hand, for 10 years. He had even promised me, "As long as I'm here, you'll always find your way home." But lately, he was the one who abandoned me the most. "I knew you 2 would make excuses for losing," Sasha said, tossing my phone onto the coffee table. "That's why I took Chloe's phone in advance. Now you have to admit defeat." The smile on Julian's face stiffened. "Why didn't you tell us you were going to do that?" Ethan's expression darkened too. What if something happened to Chloe? We wouldn't even have been able to reach her. Sasha looked confused and annoyed. "What is wrong with you 2? Didn't we agree to train Chloe together? You're betraying the team." Julian paused before speaking up.
Well,
"Chloe's home safe, so let's drop it. But don't take her phone again next time." Ethan remained quiet for a moment, then walked over to me. He grabbed my hands, checking me over to make sure I was okay. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. "Sasha meant well. Don't be mad at her, Julie. And left some watermelon in the fridge for you. I'll go get it."
no, thanks.
"Thanks." I grabbed my phone from the table and headed straight for my bedroom. "I'm tired. I want to rest." Sasha froze, turning to Julian. "Is Chloe mad at me?" She looked a bit embarrassed and stood up to leave. "Maybe I should go. She probably doesn't want to see me right now." Ethan followed her. "It's late. It's not safe for you to walk home alone. I'll drive you. I can doctor too." Julian chipped in, not wanting to be left out. He quickly ground his shoes. Ethan pushed him back inside. "Come on, Sasha's place is on my way. You live here, so there's no need for you to go." Julian unglared at him. "Stop making excuses. You live next door. How is that on your way? How ridiculous." Both of my childhood protectors were fighting over who got to drive her home. But neither of them had asked me how a girl with no phone and a horrible sense of direction had managed to find her way back on her own. In the end, they forced Julian to stay behind. Once I was back in my room, I opened my phone, went to the student portal, and submitted my application for the study abroad program. At 8, my dad came home and made dinner. Julian knocked on my door to call me out. Seeing that I was ignoring him, he sighed, "Are you still mad at Sasha? You know how she is. She might be loud and dramatic, but she really cares about you. During our junior year of high school, Sasha transferred to our school because of her parents' jobs. On her very first exam, she blew everyone away, taking my spot in the top 3 alongside Ethan and Julian. A classmate who disliked me sneered in my ear, "Some people act so small, just because they have 2 guys protecting them. Now look at you. You can't even hold on to 3rd place." Sasha happened to walk by and heard it. She immediately started a physical fight with the girl. Both of their parents were called in, but I was drawn to Sasha's fiercely loyal, no minus, nonsense personality, and we became best friends. And then our trio became a squad of 4. We even ended up going to the same college, until I slowly realized I was being pushed out of their world. Julie unpulled the blanket off my head. "All right, get up and eat." My stomach rumbled, believing that I shouldn't punish my stomach just because I was upset. I got up to wash my hands and eat. At the table, Julian casually mentioned a new amusement park just opened in town. It has a massive Ferris wheel. Sasha invited us to go tomorrow. I was about to decline when my dad spoke up. "My coworkers were talking about that place. You should go. Chloe, I remember how much you loved Ferris wheels when you saw them on EV as a kid. It's a shame we never had one nearby. I was always too busy with work to take you out of town." Since my dad put it that way, I swallowed my refusal. After dinner, our group chat was blowing up. Sasha was agonizing over what to wear for photos. She posted several pictures of different outfits. Julian and Ethan couldn't agree. They had spammed over 100 messages, arguing about which was better. Finally, Sasha sent an angry voice note. "Who asked you to?" I posted those for Chloe. Then she added in a softer tone, "Chloe, you're not still mad, right?" "I promise I'll never do it again." Ethan replied instantly on her behalf. "Don't worry. Chloe isn't that petty. You helped her with her directional issues. I should be thanking you, right, Chloe?" Sasha believed him. She kept messaging me to pick the best dress. Ethan nudged me in the chat. "Don't you think the blue dress suits Sasha perfectly?" Even the store clerk praised her when she tried it on. Julian, sitting next to me on the couch, muttered, "The clerk was just being polite." Ethan is such an idiot to believe them. That blue dress makes Sasha look washed out. The yellow one I picked is way better. She loved it when she tried it on, too. "Chloe, we live under the same roof. You have to back me up?" I paused, then asked, "You guys bought those dresses in person? When? Why didn't I know about this?" Julian was busy replying to Sasha. Without looking up, he said, "At the mall on the 3rd floor. You're there too? How did you forget so quickly?" I froze, a self-deprecating smile forming on my lips. That day at the mall, I had only gone to grab her body order. When I came back, they were gone. So while I was wandering like a headless chicken looking for them, they were busy helping Sasha try on dresses. No wonder none of them answered my calls or messages. Julian finally realized what he had just admitted. His fingers froze on the screen, and a look of embarrassment crossed his face. "My bad. I misremembered. You weren't there. I wanted to call you, but that store only sells dresses, and you don't really wear them." I didn't say a word. I just stared at him. He reached out to pat my head, but I flinched away. "Are you jealous? I'll take you shopping next week and buy you a couple of outfits." How does that sound? Maybe because I hadn't replied in the chat for a while. Sasha initiated a group FaceTime call. I didn't answer. Julie unpicked up and handed the phone to me. "Chloe, why aren't you picking?" Sasha asked. "Is it really that hard?" Julian whispered next to me. "Just pick one. Otherwise, she'll think you haven't forgiven her. And she won't sleep tonight." I let out a soft laugh, refusing to give him what he wanted. "They both look great. Pick whichever you want." Sasha complained that I was being half-hearted. But when we met at the amusement park entrance the next day, she was wearing the blue dress. She had chosen Ethan's pick. A flicker of disappointment crossed Julian's face. Sasha sent the 2 guys off to buy drinks and queue up, while she held my hand, walking slowly behind. I knew you wouldn't really hold a grudge. After all, we're best friends. I just smiled and didn't reply. Since it was opening day, the park was packed. Most people were there for the giant Ferris wheel. But when it was finally our turn, Ethan and Julian started arguing over who would sit with Sasha. Ethan said, "You're Chloe's brother. Of course you should sit with her." Julian retorted stubbornly, "Sasha wore the dress you picked. To be fair, she should sit with me." The people in line behind us were getting impatient. Some began to grumble. "Are you guys getting on or what? Go argue somewhere else. Are they stupid? Why don't the 3 of them just share one carriage? Is there really a need to fight?" The 2 of them snapped back in unison. "Who wants to sit with him?" But in the end, the 3 of them got into one carriage anyway. Their excuse was that a single carriage would be roomier for me. So Julian undetheth and generously let me ride alone. Sasha pressed her face against the glass, looking down at me with puppy-minus-dog eyes. I'm so jealous that you get a whole carriage to yourself, while I have to squeeze in with these two. Girl standing behind me in line whispered to her boyfriend, "Is she serious? That's such an obvious, disgusting, humble brag. Keep your eyes open. That right there is a toxic girl. If you ever fall for that kind of act, I will kill you." I instinctively looked back at her. She looked a bit embarrassed and quickly apologized. "Sorry, I was just joking. Don't mind me." I didn't blame her. After all, she was just telling the truth. The ticket collector couldn't stand it either. He charmed in kindly. "Don't sweat it, kid. I'll call my son to come over and drive with you. Heck, you can go around twice." He actually pulled out his phone. I smiled and waved my hand. "It's fine, thank you. I actually prefer being alone." When I got off the Ferris wheel, the three of them were gone again. This time I didn't panic or look for them. I calmly pulled out my phone and ordered an Uber home. My dad was home on his day off. He was surprised to see me back so early. "Back already? Have you eaten? Where's Julian?" I didn't answer. I sat down next to him and rested my head on his shoulder.
Dad.
"I want to go on an exchange program abroad next semester. What do you think?" "Of course. Go see the world while you're young. It's a great opportunity with Julian. With you, I'll feel safe." I shook my head. "Julian isn't going.
We're adults now, Dad.
We have our own paths. I can't drag him into something he doesn't want to do." My dad hesitated. "But you've never traveled far by yourself. Going abroad all of a sudden?" I quickly explained. "I won't be alone. There are other students from my college going too. I've already made a friend to travel with." Only then did he reluctantly agree. "Julie, and didn't get home until evening. Chloe, we just went to grab water. Why did you leave on your own?" I was filling out my study abroad documents and didn't even bother to look up. It was too hot. I didn't want to wait. Once I submitted everything, I noticed our group chat was at 99 notifications. They were excitedly discussing what to pack, what sunscreen to buy, car rentals, and local food spots. Stared at the screen for a moment, then messaged D. "Where are you guys going?" "Down the hall." I heard Julian curse. He rushed into my room. "We bought tickets for a trip this afternoon. Since you weren't there, we forgot to buy yours. Let me see if I can get you a standby ticket right now." Sasha's voice note played right. "Then don't bother. Those were the last 3 tickets available. It's all your fault. You two are arguing in my ear, making me forget the most important thing." Seeing that they were about to bicker again, I texted the nurse. "No need to look for tickets. It's too hot anyway. I'd rather stay home." Julian, sitting next to me, let out a quiet sigh of relief and closed the ticketing app. "Yeah, this summer is brutal. It's fine. I'll take photos for you. If I see any cool souvenirs, I'll bring them back." The day they left for their trip was the same day I boarded my flight to go abroad. Before leaving, Julie unnagged me. "Don't eat too much cold stuff since Dad's busy. Don't buy whole watermelons you can't finish. Oh, and keep the door locked." Ethan walked down the stairs, smirking. "Keep playing mother hen. I'm going to meet up with Sasha." Julie ungritted his teeth and followed him out. I watched their car disappear down the street. Only then did I roll my suitcase out of my room and head downstairs. Finally, I didn't have to be the awkward third wheel in their 3-person world anymore. The terminal at the international airport was bathed in a pale, fluorescent hum. It was 9 p.m., and the heavy summer heat of the city had been left behind at the sliding glass doors, replaced by the sterile, air-conditioned chill of the departure lounge. Chloe sat on a metal bench, her hands wrapped around a lukewarm paper cup of black coffee. Beside her sat a single, medium-sized suitcase. She took out her phone. The screen lit up with 64 unread messages from the group chat named the Four Musketeers, a name Sasha had chosen during their freshman year of college. The notifications were a blur of photos, a highway stretching into the sunset, a close-up of Sasha's blue dress catching the wind at a rest stop, and a selfie of Julian and Ethan fighting over the auxiliary cord in the front seat. "Where's our cheerleader?" Ethan had texted 3 hours ago. "Chloe, you're missing the road trip playlist. Julian's taste in music is still stuck in 2012. Let her rest," Julian had replied. "She's probably still asleep. I left some leftover pizza in the fridge for her." Chloe looked at the messages, her thumb hovering over the screen. There was no anger in her chest, only a strange, hollow lightness. It was the feeling of a tooth that had finally stopped aching after months of throbbing pain. There was a gap now, empty and cold, but the sharp bite of it was gone. She tapped the group settings, scrolled to the bottom, and clicked Leave Group. A small, gray box appeared on her screen. You have left the group. She then clicked on Julian's individual contact. She typed a short message. Dad
Knows.
my documents are in the second drawer of my desk. Don't look for me. She sent it, switched her phone to airplane mode, and slipped it into her pocket. Flight 402 to Copenhagen is now boarding at Gate 17, the overhead speaker announced. Chloe stood up. She looked down at her feet, then at the signs hanging from the
High ceiling.
There were arrows pointing left for gates 1 to 15 and right for gates 16 to 30. For a second, her brain did its usual stutter, a momentary panic, where left and right blurred into a single, confusing direction. But then she looked at the giant, glowing number 17 painted on the wall.
She didn't need to know north from south.
She just needed to follow the numbers. She pulled her suitcase handle up, took a deep breath, and walked forward. 200 miles away, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot of a boutique hotel overlooking the lake. The air here was cooler, smelling of pine needles and damp earth. Sasha climbed out of the passenger seat, stretching her arms. The blue dress she wore was slightly wrinkled from the long drive, but she still managed to look effortlessly put together. Finally, she sighed, tossing her sunglasses onto the dashboard. My legs are
Numb.
Julian, get the bags, will you? Julian turned off the ignition, but he didn't get out immediately.
He was
Staring at his phone, a frown creasing his forehead. What's wrong? Ethan asked from the back seat, leaning forward. Chloe left the group chat, Julian said, his voice quiet. Sasha laughed, walking around to the driver's side to peer at his screen. Oh,
please.
she's probably just throwing a mini tantrum because we didn't buy her a
Ticket.
You know how she gets. She'll join back by tomorrow once she realizes she has no one to talk to. She's never left the group before, Julian muttered.
He tapped her contact and
Tried to call her. The number you have dialed is currently unavailable or out of coverage range, the automated voice droned.
see?
She's probably in some basement mall or her phone died, Sasha said, dismissively, grabbing her designer handbag. Come on, let's check in. I want to take photos by the infinity pool before the sun goes down. Ethan helped Julian with the luggage. Ethan got out of the car, but his eyes were fixed on the road they had just
Traveled.
A strange unease had settled in his stomach. Usually when they went on trips without Chloe, she would spam them with clumsy texts, asking them to send photos of the flowers, the food, or the scenery.
She would tell them to
Drive safely and remind Julian not to speed. Today there was nothing. She's probably just busy, Ethan said, though he was trying to convince himself. More than Julian. She mentioned her term papers were done, but maybe she's helping her dad with something. Yeah, Julian said, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, probably. The hotel lobby was grand, filled with glass chandeliers and the soft sound of a grand piano playing in the background. Sasha immediately went to the terrace to find the best angle for her photos, while Julian and Ethan checked them in. We booked 2 rooms, correct? Julian asked the receptionist. Yes, sir. 1 double room and 1 single room, the receptionist replied, sliding the key cards across the marble counter. Julian took the keys, his hand pausing. For the past 10 years, whenever they traveled, they had to book 3 rooms or a large suite because Chloe's dad insisted she have her own space. Julian and Ethan would usually share, and Chloe would get the smaller room next to theirs. Now, with Sasha here, the dynamic had shifted. Sasha took the single room, and Julian and Ethan shared the double. Hey, Ethan said as they walked toward the elevator. Did Chloe ever reply to that text about the watermelon? No, Julian said. He pulled out his phone again. Still no bars on the call.
He
opened WeChat, but her profile picture, a drawing of a small, lost-looking yellow duck, was silent. We shouldn't have left her behind at the Ferris wheel, Ethan said suddenly, his voice dropping as they entered the elevator. Sasha, who had joined them, turned around, her eyebrows raised. Oh, are we still on about that? Ethan, she's 21 years old. She got home by herself.
didn't she?
In fact, she got home faster than us. My training actually worked. It wasn't training, Sasha, Julian said, his tone sharper than usual.
She
Looked really tired when she got back. If she was tired, she should have said something, Sasha retorted, her voice rising in irritation. I do all of this because I want her to be independent.
do.
You two want to carry her on your backs for the rest of her life? What happens when she gets a job? What happens when she gets married? Is her husband going to have to leash her to his wrist so she doesn't wander off? The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Sasha stepped out first, her heels clicking loudly against the carpet. Honestly, you two treat her like she's made of glass. It's exhausting. Julian and Ethan followed her in silence. For the first time, the excitement of the trip felt heavy, like wet wool. Copenhagen was cold. Even in the middle of summer, a sharp, salty breeze blew in from the harbor, carrying the scent of rain and old stone. Chloe stepped out of the Kastrup airport terminal and immediately pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. The sky was a pale, pearlescent gray and the streets were wet from a recent shower. She stood at the edge of the taxi lane, looking at the city map she had downloaded on her phone. Her destination was a student dormitory in Norrebro, a vibrant neighborhood known for its cafes and multicultural streets. Are you Chloe? Chloe turned around. A tall girl with a mess of curly brown hair and a bright yellow raincoat was waving at her. She was holding a cardboard sign with CHLOE exchange written in messy black marker. Clara? Chloe asked, her voice tentative.
Yes.
Oh, thank God I found you, Clara said, stepping forward and pulling Chloe into a brief, warm hug that smelled of wet wool and coffee. The train from the airport is a bit confusing if you've never been here before, so I figured I'd come pick you up. I'm your flatmate. You came all the way here? Chloe was stunned. Back home, if she was arriving at a station, Julian and Ethan would usually tell her to find a landmark and wait until they finished whatever they were doing. Of course, Clara said, easily grabbing one side of Chloe's suitcase. It's what flatmates do. Come on, the metro is this way.
Don't worry about getting
lost. I've lived here for 3 years and I still occasionally board the train, going the wrong direction. It's part of the Danish experience. Chloe felt a small, tight knot in her throat loosen. I have a really terrible sense of direction. I can't tell north from south. Clara laughed. A loud, genuine sound. Who cares about north and south? We have canals and a giant round tower. If you see water, you're going one way. If you see the tower, you're going the other. It's simple. As they boarded the clean, driverless metro train, Chloe looked out the window. The city was beautiful, a mix of modern glass buildings and old, copper-roofed townhouses. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel the paralyzing fear of being in an unfamiliar place. There was no one behind her smirking at her confusion, no one whispering that she was a burden, and no one training her by leaving her behind. When they arrived at the apartment, Clara showed her around. It was a cozy, third-floor flat with creaking hardwood floors, large windows that let in the soft northern light, and shelves overflowing with books and plants. Chloe's room was small but warm, with a single bed, a wooden desk, and a view of a quiet courtyard filled with bicycles. I'll leave you to unpack, Clara said, leaning against the doorframe. There's some rye bread and cheese in the kitchen if you're hungry. And hey, welcome to Copenhagen. Thank you, Clara, Chloe said softly. Once the door closed, Chloe sat on the edge of the bed. She took out her phone. She had several missed calls from Julian and Ethan, and a few frantic messages. From Julian. Chloe, where are you? Dad said you went to Denmark? Why didn't you tell me? Chloe, answer your phone. This isn't funny. Are you really in Denmark? Alone? How did you even get to the airport? Chloe stared at the screen. She didn't feel the urge to explain herself. They had spent years assuming she was a helpless, fragile thing that required their constant oversight, yet they had repeatedly abandoned her whenever it was convenient for them. She opened her contacts, selected Julian and Ethan, and set their notifications
to do not disturb.
Then, she stood up, walked to the window, and pushed it open. The cool, damp air rushed in, carrying the sound of bicycle bells and distant laughter. She smiled. It was a quiet, genuine smile that reached her eyes. Back in the lakefront hotel, the trip was not going well. It was the third day, and the tension between Julian, Ethan, and Sasha had reached a boiling point. Without Chloe there to act as the buffer, the clumsy, sweet girl they could all agree to protect or tease, the dynamics between the three of them had curdled. Sasha wanted to go to a high-end restaurant by the lake, but it required a reservation weeks in advance. When Ethan told her they couldn't get in, she had thrown a minor fit, accusing them of not planning the trip properly. You guys are so useless, Sasha said, crossing her arms as they sat at a mediocre cafe nearby. If Chloe were here, she would have at least tried to call them and beg. She's good at that helpless act. Julian's fork clattered against his plate. She doesn't do an act, Sasha. Sasha rolled her eyes. Oh, please. You two are just soft on her because she's your little sister and childhood sweetheart. But honestly, it's nice not having to wait for her to find her shoes or lose her keys every 5 minutes. Ethan, who had been quiet for most of the trip, looked up. His eyes were cold. Sasha, when we went to the mall last month, the day you bought that blue
Dress.
where was Chloe? Sasha paused, her fork hovering. What do you mean? She was, I don't know, wandering around. You told us she was meeting up with a classmate, Ethan said, his voice deadly. Quiet. But Julian told me Chloe was actually there to pick up our food order. And you told her to meet us on the 3rd floor, but then you took us to the 1st floor to look at dresses. Sasha's face flushed. So? It was a mistake. We got distracted. We were gone for 4 hours, Sasha, Julian said, his voice shaking slightly. She didn't have her phone because you took it. She was wandering that massive mall for 4 hours without a way to contact anyone, thinking we had lost her. And when she finally found us, you laughed and said it was her final exam for the week. Why are you bringing this up now? Sasha demanded, her voice rising. You guys laughed too. Julian, you literally joked that she looked like a lost penguin. Julian felt a sudden, sickening wave of self-loathing. He had laughed because he wanted to impress Sasha, because Sasha was confident and beautiful and made him feel like he was part of the cool crowd. He had allowed himself to treat his own sister, the girl who had begged his parents to take him in when his own mother had abandoned him, like a punchline. Chloe, he's a human being, not a stray puppy. He remembered his foster father's words. He remembered how Chloe, with her wide, earnest eyes, had held his hand and said, he's my brother now. I'll make sure. He's never alone. And what had he done? He had left her alone in a crowded subway station. He had left her in a cleared-out restaurant without her phone. I'm going home, Julian said, pushing his chair back.
What?
Sasha stared at him in disbelief. We still have 2 days left.
We're
supposed to go boating tomorrow. Go with Ethan, Julian said, not looking at her. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and walked out of the cafe. Ethan sat there for a moment, looking at Sasha. Without her usual entourage of 2 worshipful boys, Sasha looked smaller, her expression defensive and sharp. Are you going to leave too? She sneered. Over Chloe? She's probably sitting at home right now, laughing at how easily she manipulated you two into feeling guilty. Ethan looked at the blue dress she was wearing. It was the same one he had praised, the one he had nudged Chloe to choose in the chat. Now, it just looked
loud.
Gaudiness masquerading as style. She's not at home, Sasha, Ethan said quietly. She's in Denmark. Sasha froze. What? Her dad told Julian. She applied for an exchange program months ago. She packed her bags and left the same day we did. Ethan stood up, leaving a few bills on the table. She didn't tell us because she knew we wouldn't care. And she was
right.
He walked away, leaving Sasha alone at the table, surrounded by the remnants of an expensive lunch she hadn't touched. In Copenhagen, the autumn came quickly. The leaves on the trees along the lakes turned a brilliant, fiery orange, and the air grew crisp and sharp. Chloe's sense of direction hadn't magically cured itself. She still, occasionally, walked into the wrong courtyard or took the metro in the wrong direction. But the shame of it was gone. One Tuesday afternoon, she was trying to find a small print shop in the Latin Quarter. She had turned down 3 different alleyways, each lined with colorful townhouses and small boutiques, before realizing she had gone in a circle. She stopped, leaning against a green lamppost. A year ago, this would have triggered a wave of cold sweat and a desperate, frantic search for her phone, accompanied by the phantom sound of Sasha's mocking laughter. Instead, Chloe just smiled, took out her phone, and opened her map. Are you lost? She looked up. A young man with a camera slung over his shoulder and a friendly, open face was looking at her. He had a slight Danish accent. A little, Chloe said honestly. I'm looking for the print shop on Studiestrella. You're very close, he said, pointing down the street. Take the next left. Go past the yellow building with the flowers on the balcony, and it's right
there.
If you reach the church, you've gone too far. Left at the yellow building, Chloe repeated. Thank you. No problem. Enjoy the city, he said with a warm smile before walking on. Chloe followed his directions. When she found the yellow building, she felt a quiet surge of satisfaction. She didn't need to know where north was. She just needed to look for the flowers. When she returned to the apartment, Clara was baking cinnamon buns. The kitchen was warm and smelled of sugar and yeast. "Hey," Clara said, wiping flour from her forehead. "A package arrived for you. It's on the table." Chloe walked over. It was a cardboard box, wrapped in heavy tape. The return address was her home in the suburbs. She opened it. Inside were several jars of her favorite homemade chili oil, a thick knitted scarf her father had made, and a letter. She opened the letter first. It was her father's neat, slightly shaky handwriting. "Dear Chloe, I hope the weather in Denmark isn't too cold. I worry about you, but Clara tells me you are doing wonderfully. Julian has been very quiet lately. He spends a lot of time in his room. He asked me for your address, but I told him that if you wanted him to have it, you would have given it to him yourself. I hope I did the right thing. Take care of yourself, my brave girl. Remember to eat hot meals. Love, Dad." Chloe felt a tear slip down her cheek, but it wasn't a sad tear. It was the warmth of knowing that her father, the one person who truly loved her without conditions, understood her. Underneath the scarf, there was another envelope. This one had Julian's handwriting. Chloe hesitated. She sat on her bed and opened it. "Chloe, I don't know if you'll read this. Dad wouldn't give me your address, so I had to slip this into his package when he wasn't looking.
I'm sorry.
I'm so
sorry.
I look back at the things we did, the things I did, and I can't believe I called myself your brother. You saved me when I was a kid. You gave me a home, a family, and a sister. And I threw that away to chase after someone who didn't care about either of us. Ethan and I don't speak to Sasha anymore. The group chat is gone. But that doesn't change what we did to you. I wanted to fly to Copenhagen to find you, but Dad told me to leave you alone. He said you deserved to have a space where you didn't have to carry our expectations. I'm staying at the dorms now. I don't go back to the house much because it feels too empty
Without you.
You don't have to forgive me. I just want to know you're safe.
With
Love, Julian." Chloe read the letter twice. She felt a faint, distant ache for the boy who used to share his school lunches with her, the boy who had promised to protect her. But the sister who had begged her parents to take him in was gone. She had grown up. She folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and placed it in the bottom drawer of her desk.
She didn't write back.
Spring came to Copenhagen with a sudden explosion of cherry blossoms in Bispebjerg Cemetery. The city came alive, people sitting outside on wooden benches, drinking beer, and soaking in the long-awaited sunshine. Chloe's exchange program was coming to an end in 3 weeks. She had been offered a research internship at the university for the summer, and she was seriously considering staying. One afternoon, she was sitting at an outdoor table at a cafe along the Nyhavn Canal. The water was a bright, shimmering blue, reflecting the colorful facades of the historical townhouses. She was writing in her journal, her camera sitting on the table beside her cup of tea. "Chloe?" The voice was familiar, but it sounded like it belonged to a different life. Chloe looked up. Ethan was standing a few feet away. He looked different, older, his face thinner, his hair cut shorter. He was wearing a dark jacket, a leather camera bag slung over his shoulder. He looked tired, the confident, easy smirk she had known for 10 years entirely gone from his face. Chloe's heart gave a single, hard thud, and then returned to its normal rhythm. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm and steady. Ethan took a step forward, his eyes wide, as if he couldn't believe she was actually there. I saw your photo on Instagram. The one with the canal.
I
Recognized the bridge. I've been walking around this harbor for 2 days hoping I'd run into you." Chloe looked at him. "Why are you here, Ethan?" "I wanted to see you," he said, his voice cracking slightly. He gestured to the empty chair across from her. "Can I sit?" Chloe paused, then nodded. "Just for a bit. I have to meet Clara soon." Ethan sat down, his hands clenching and unclenching on his lap. He looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't the girl who used to shrink into her oversized hoodies, looking around anxiously for someone to guide her. She wore a simple, elegant trench coat. Her hair was cut in a stylish bob, and her eyes were clear and grounded. She looked like she belonged here, in this beautiful, complex northern city. "You look great," Ethan said quietly. "Thank you," Chloe replied. "Julian wanted to come," Ethan said, his eyes dropping to the table. "But he was too afraid. He's in a pretty bad place, Chloe. He failed 2 of his classes last semester. He just sits in his room and looks at old photos of us." "And Sasha?" Chloe asked, her tone conversational, as if she were asking about an old acquaintance. Ethan flinched slightly. We don't talk to her. After we got back from that trip, everything fell apart. We realized how much we had let her dictate how we treated you. She tried to make it look like you were the one who abandoned us, but we couldn't pretend anymore. I haven't seen her in 6 months. Chloe looked down at her tea. Sasha didn't dictate anything, Ethan. You and Julian made your own choices. The words were quiet, but they hit Ethan like a physical blow. I know, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I know we did. And that's the hardest part. I promised you, Chloe. When we were kids, I told you that as long as I was there, you'd always find your way home. And then I became the one who made you feel lost. He reached across the table, his hand trembling as he tried to cover hers.
Come.
Home, Chloe. Please. We can start over. I'll make it up to you. Every single
day.
I'll walk you anywhere you want to go. Just come back. Chloe gently, firmly pulled her hand away before he could touch her. Ethan, she said, looking him directly in the eyes. I am home. Ethan stared at her, his throat working but no words coming out. For 10 years, I thought I was broken because I couldn't tell north from south, Chloe said, her voice soft but unwavering. You and Julian made me believe that without you, I would drown. But you didn't keep me safe. You kept me small so that you could feel big. She stood up, picking up her journal and her camera. I get lost here almost every day, she continued, a small, genuine smile touching her lips. But the difference is, when I get lost now, I don't feel afraid. I just find a new street, a new shop, or a new park. I don't need someone to hold my hand and tell me which way to go. Chloe, Ethan's eyes swam with tears. He stood up too, but he looked so small against the backdrop of the grand, open harbor. I'm glad you came, Ethan, Chloe said, looking at him with nothing but kindness and a quiet, final pity. It's good to have closure. Tell Julian I'm doing well, and tell him to pass his classes. She adjusted her camera strap, turned around, and began to walk away. Chloe, Ethan called out, his voice desperate. Which way are you going? The metro station is the other way. Chloe stopped. She looked at the signs pointing toward the city center, then at the wide, open canal stretching out toward the sea. She turned back to him, her face bright in the spring sunshine. It doesn't matter, she said. And with that, she turned her back on her past, took a random left turn down a narrow, sunlit street, and walked into her own future.